7.6% of increase or decrease. Today we are going to learn about the percent of change. So what is the percent of change? The percent of change is the difference over the original. So this is our big highlighted idea. Percent of change is the difference in the amounts over the original amount. If you'd rather set it up as a proportion, well then it's the difference over the original equals the percent over 100. Here's our first two problems we're going to do as examples. Number one, 24 students to 4 students. Well, is this going to be a percent change that is an increase or a decrease? Well, if you're going from 24 students all the way down to just 4 students, it's definitely going to be a decrease. So we want to find the percent change, and that is equal to the difference in these two numbers. What's the difference? Well, we could do 24 minus 4. And we put that over the original, which is 24. Please hold. Hello? Hi. 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 Sorry about that. All right, so we've got our difference, which is the difference between 24 and 4 over our original, which is 24. So what does this mean? We have 20 out of 24. If you'd like, I could simplify. 4 goes into both of these. Let's see, 4 goes into this 5 times and 4 goes into 24 6 times. So basically, I need to figure out what 5 divided by 6 is. When I take 5 and divide by 6, don't forget, the top dog gets the house. The other number goes outside, add decimal and a bunch of zeros. Okay, to do this division, I will find that I will end up with 0.8333, and 3 keeps repeating. So what is that as a percent? Well, that is 83.3 repeating percent, or you could say 83 1/3%. And remember, I went from 24 to 4, so is that an increase or decrease? That is a decrease. Number 2, from $300 to $500, will we have an increase or decrease? Well, we are going to definitely have an increase. Hopefully that's in my wallet. That'd be awesome. So our percent change is going to be our difference. What's the difference between 300 and 500? 200. So the difference is 200 out of the original. The original is 300. This simplifies to 2/3. Do we know 2/3 as a decimal? Yeah, it's 0.6 repeating. So if I want to change that into a percent, we would call that 66.6%. Or if you'd rather, you can say 66 2/3%. And we went from 300 to 500, so that's an increase. This will do differently is it'll put my decimal point already at the right spot rather than getting a decimal and then changing to a percent after. Similarly here, I could have done the 5 over the 6 equals x over 100, that being my proportion. Number 3, 10 frogs changed to 30 frogs. Is this an increase or decrease? If you'd like, pause the video for a minute. Increase, decrease. So what is it? That's right, you do the difference over the original. So what's the difference between 10 and 30? 20. Great. And you put that over the original. The original amount of frogs was 10. Fantastic. And then we could simplify this. Well, this is basically goes down to 2 over 1, or just 2. Well, wait a minute. If 1 whole is 100%, then 2 is 200%. So the percent change for this is a 200% increase. I always find this fascinating because people think when it's a 200% increase, it just doubles. But actually, it takes its amount and adds that amount on twice. Okay, so from 10 frogs to 30 frogs is a 200% increase. Number 4 and 5, we are going to change mode a little bit here, and instead we want to know what is $52 decreased by 20%. So what are we going to do first? Well, you have two options of how to solve. A lot of our brains go to the idea of, well, what is 52% decreased by 20%? So a lot of us think about, well, I need to figure out what is 20% out of 100 for 52. Okay, I could set it up a proportion. This is out of 52, 20 out of 100, and I can solve it this way. A lot of us think of it as x is our what is 52% times 20%. So if I wanted to figure out 20% of 52, I could do this also. Either of these will end me up with x is $10.40. Some of us also like to figure this out a different way. If you figure out 10% of $52, you can just basically move the decimal over one and get 5.2. And so if you want 20%, it's double it, so it becomes 10 and 40 hundredths. So this is just the amount decreased. Well, so if I do it this way, I'm going to have to do two steps. So step A is going to find the 20%, which is 1040, and step B is going to be taking my $52 and subtracting the 20% that we're decreasing by to find out my new price. And I ended up with $41.60. So if I take $52, I decrease it by 20%, I get $41.60. Shortcut. If you are taking a number and you're decreasing by 20%, well, isn't that actually the same as saying I want 80% of 52? Yeah, because what is 80%? It's finding 100 and subtracting 20, taking away the 20% that you're going to decrease by anyways, leaving you with 80%. So much easier shortcut, 80% of 52. You can either set it up as a proportion, your x over 52 equals 80 over 100, or you can just do 80, which is 0.8, of means multiply times 52. And if I do 0.8 times 52, I will once again get $41.60. So then we come to number 5, which we have the same sort of situation. $14 is being increased by 35%. Well, I can go with the two-step method. I can do A, what is 35% of 14, either by proportion or by a multiplication. Figure out this is 0.35 times 14. When I get that number, I will end up with $4.90. And then I can do part B, which is this is 35% of 14. Now I want to take 14 and I want to increase it by 35%. So that means instead I would take 14 and I would add the $4.90. If I add it, I will end up with then $18.90. Or, remember here we did something different. So what would be the or here? Instead of finding 35% and then adding it onto it, what could I have done instead? Well, here I wanted 100 minus the 20. Here I want 100 plus the 35%. So instead I could have done 135%. What that means is I want all of it plus the 35% and multiply that by 14, which is our amount of dollars. So what's 135 as a percent? As a decimal, it's 1.35. Multiply that by the $14, and in one step instead, I would have gotten the $18.90. If you don't believe me, push pause, multiply, and see if it actually equals out to this. So which method would you like to use?